Flosstube, it's Jo here and welcome to my third Flosstube video. I'm on number 3 already, I cannot believe it. So today I'm obviously here with my September update and I've got a lot to show you. It's going to be a bit of a hot mess today. I've not got any notes, all I've got is my list of the dates of what I've started, my plans for the rest of the month, and I'm just gonna go for it. What I really need to do is start taking notes as I'm stitching throughout the month, so that when I get to the end I'm not like I've got to write everything down, because when I get to the end of the month I just really want to sit down and talk to you guys about my cross stitching. So I've decided I've got a new notebook which I'm absolutely in love with, and I'm going to keep notes as I'm going throughout the month so that I'm a bit more prepared. But I wanted to put the video up today, I wanted to get everything out, so I decided that I'm just going to do it today. It's going to be... It's been a tough week. I'm not feeling so good. That's why I wanted to do it today, because I thought if I don't do it today I'm probably not going to do this video. There's a lot been going on this week and I'll get more into it when I get up to this week's stitching, what I've stitched this week, and I'll explain a bit more into it. But yeah, it's not been the greatest of weeks, so I'll get started and I'll show you what I've got. So I've not taken everything out of the plastic wallets that I keep them in. All my projects are kept in things like this, so there will be a little bit of crinkling and a bit of noise, so I'm going to apologise for that in advance. But it was a case of I got up this morning, I got myself ready, and I've just pulled everything out, and yeah, I'm going to do it now. So the first thing I worked on, oh, before we start, I'd just like to say, because I should do this at the beginning of every video, welcome to everybody who is back to see me again, who's subscribed. I'm dead happy that you have, and I'll get into more why I'm so happy that there's so many people that have subscribed and left me wonderful comments. So hello everybody again, it's nice to see you. I hope you've had a wonderful month with lots of stitching and all the great things that you've had in your life over the last month. To anybody that's new, I'm Jo. This is my third Flosstube video, like I said. I'm obviously new to doing videos, but I've been watching Flosstube for the last year and a half, and I'm absolutely crazy about cross stitching, and that's why my channel name is JoJo Cross Stitch Crazy. So I'd like to say welcome. I hope you enjoy the video, I hope you enjoy the projects that I'm working on, and I hope you subscribe. So let's start. So I'm doing 55 new starts over the next year. I'm in my 3rd month. I cannot believe it. We're getting into October's new starts already. So for September I had 5 new starts. It was 4 Mondays in the month, and then my birthday was on the 13th of September, so I had a new start on my birthday as well. At the weekends I worked on some whips, and I've got 3 finishes for my 3rd Flosstube video. So I am going to be looking down, I know I haven't got any notes, but I am going to be looking down just to see the dates and what I stitched on. So the very first project that I started was on the Monday the 3rd, and it was the girl with the umbrella, which is a kit, and it's a Chinese kit. So I worked on it for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's on Ada that came with the kit, and it's Magic Guide. I hope I've said this in my last video, it's got lines on it, and I hope it comes out. If it's not Magic Guide, I wonder if it's the iron, you know, the stuff that you can iron and it comes out. I don't know, but it doesn't say anything in the instructions. So this is what she will look like. I'm hoping, I'm hoping that this will be my thumbnail and not me pulling some weird face like the last 2 videos. So that's the first start. So I worked on it for 5 days, and here is where I got up to. So obviously it started in the top left corner, worked my way down. Here is the bottom of page 1 to there, so that's page 1. And obviously here is where the umbrella is, so I decided to carry on going across and a bit down because I didn't want to start on the girl and the umbrella, because I know that if I do that bit I'm not going to want to do all the background. So my idea is to go across to the end, down a bit to the middle of the page, the middle of the fabric, and then do this bit here and then work my way down. So yeah, the coverage isn't fantastic, but for a kit that's less than £10 and all the floss, I'm pretty happy with that. So it was a joy to work on. I absolutely struggled putting it down. You'll probably hear me say that quite a lot because I get into things really, I get into things and I'm like, I want to carry on. I didn't want to finish, you know, I didn't want to stop, but I said that I was going to do these 55 starts, so if I'm going to plan on doing that, I need to work on it for the time that I've allotted and then put it away. So that was week 1, and then on the Saturday, which was my whip weekend, I pulled out one of my original whips. Now I had a look to see what I originally had when I started, and when I started this project I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I had 8 whips before I started my year of starts. So 8 original whips. I had 6 from 2017 and I had 2 from the beginning of 2018 before I stopped stitching for 5 months. So that's the 8. And then obviously when I've done the 55 new starts, I'll have 55 new starts. I'll have 55 whips and whatever I've not finished from the beginning of 2018 and 2017. And I'm hoping that it's just one that I have left over from from 2018 and 2017, which will be my Haid. I'm hoping to get the rest of them finished. So for the first weekend I pulled out my, oh, just bear with me 1 second, I need to get the book out because I've not pulled that out. So I worked on my trellis design by Beth Russell, and it's out of the Victorian Needlepoint book, and I changed it to cross stitch. So I've shown this in my first video and my second video. So this is the one that I did. I changed the background to make it into bricks, so the trellis is up against bricks, and I just used colours that were similar. I've got loads of unnamed floss. I've got a massive box of it, so I use it when I can. So yeah, so that was my first whip that I pulled out, and it's my first finish. Now, I mentioned about this, that I had this sat for months and it was so close to being finished, but because I used some green floss that I got from auction that was not numbered, and I thought I had enough, that I didn't, and I had 1.5 leaves left to do on it. I couldn't match it. I think it was faded. I tried everything to match it. I couldn't get anything close. A couple of people suggested some websites, and then I can't remember the person who did it, but they said, why don't you just use a green that's similar to it and mix what I had left. So that's what I did. I can tell the difference. It is noticeable, but my story that I'm going with and I'm sticking with is that it's in the shade. The rest of it's in the shade, and that bit's in the sun, so there's a difference. But it is finished. it is completely finished. I'm not too sure of the stitch count. I'll have a quick look. It's 200 by 200. 200 stitches by 200 stitches. And my plan is to frame it in a copper frame. And it's to go in my kitchen. So, this is the leaf. These two leaves, I don't know if you can tell. Let me fold it. This leaf and this leaf were the ones that I had to do. You can't really tell. I can tell, but on the camera you can't tell. So yeah, finish number 1. I have this thing that I've discovered that I do, and I don't know if anybody else does this, and it might be a little bit weird, a little bit strange, but it's something that I do. When I've worked on something for so long, when I get to the last stitch, the very last stitch that I'm going to put in, the last cross, I always stop. So I've got 1 stitch left. And then I spend about 5 minutes just looking at it and thinking about all the things that have happened while I was stitching this, and, you know, the good times, the bad times, and I really take like a good 5 minutes to just enjoy what I've done, and then I put the last stitch in. And I don't know if anybody else does that. If anybody else does that, let me know. Or if anybody else has got something that they do that they think nobody else does, or they think that only a few people do, let me know, because I don't know why I do that. I think it's just so I can enjoy it and just take that moment to know that once I put this last stitch in, that's it, it's done, it's finished. So yeah, so that's what I do. Whenever I'm getting ready to finish a piece, I leave the last stitch, look at it for a bit, think about it, and then I put that last stitch in, and then it's finished. So yeah, so I did that. So that brings us up to the 10th of September, and I worked on a magazine piece, and that was out of The World of Cross Stitch, issue 243, so it's out of this cross stitch magazine, and it was the Elegance and Beauty. I don't think it's actually called Elegance and Beauty, I think it's called something else. It's called French Sophistication, I believe. So that's it. And my idea was I was going to do this on linen, and it was going to be the first piece that I ever did on linen. I had a piece of linen, not too sure what the count is. It was quite big. I put 3 or 4 stitches in it and I didn't like it. I'm not saying I don't like linen, I just didn't like this piece of linen. So I ended up doing it on 14 count Ada. And this is where I got up to. So I've done the first 4, so there's 6 panels. I've done the first 4. I've done all the cross stitch and the border, and I've left the beads. I'll do the beads at the end. There is so many beads in this. There is tons of beads. I'm not too sure how many beads. For such a small piece, there is so many beads in it. So there's 3 packs of beads, Mill Hill. So there's like a little, it's like red, white, I really like these, and then silver. I think I might actually do another pack of these because there's loads of this in it. So yeah, so I was pretty chuffed with that. I could have probably finished this because I only worked on it, instead of the 5 days, Monday to Friday, I only actually worked on it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because it was my birthday on the Thursday, so I obviously pulled out my start for my birthday. So normally it gets 5 days, it only got 3 because I worked on my birthday piece for 2 days. I worked on it on the Thursday and the Friday. So I reckon I probably could have got the rest of the cross stitching finished on the Thursday and the Friday, and then that would have just left me with the beading. But because I had to put it down for my birthday start, which is coming up next, yeah, I only got the 4 panels done out of the 6, so I'm looking forward to getting back to that and finishing it, because it's going to take me a couple of days to do the beading, I think, but it shouldn't take too long to do the rest of the cross stitch. So that brings me up to Thursday the 13th of September for my birthday start, which was my first ever Mirabilia and the first time me ever stitching on linen. Let me just tell you, my world has just completely been opened to linen. I'm in love. I'm in love with linen. I'm still going to use Ada for full coverage. But yeah, I am absolutely in love with linen. Now I'm using Witchell linen, and I've noticed over a lot of YouTube video, Flosstube videos that I've watched, a lot of people say that they don't like Witchell linen because it's quite stiff, and I think because I'm used to working on Ada, I actually quite liked it. I think if I'd have gone from Ada to really soft linen, I might have struggled a bit with it. I might have been a bit like, well, I'm not too sure about this. But yeah, the Witchell linen I actually really like for now, until I try other linens. But yeah, so I started on my birthday Christmas in London by Mirabilia, and I always bought this by from my sister. My sister bought me this even from last year for my birthday, so I had this for a full year and never started it, so I thought it was fitting to start it on my birthday this year. And I only worked on it for 2 days, and because I was doing linen 32 count, I didn't work. It was slow stitching for me, just because I was so worried about getting it wrong, missing a thread, and I'm doing it 2/2, that I really took my time doing it. Plus, because I've only ever worked on Ada, I don't have a light. I just have the main light in the living room and the lamp behind me. So I found that I couldn't work on this once it got dark. I could only work on it in the day, so I only really worked on it for 2 half days instead of 2 full days. So, and please, I've got some, obviously got some threads that are hanging. So, but that's what I managed to do. And as you can tell, I work in a hoop. So yeah. So obviously some of the spacing is for beads. I'm missing one of the colours, so I couldn't put that in there. But I'm absolutely in love with this. And I'm in love with it so much that I was like, I'm not going to do these 55 starts. I'm going to completely forget about that, and I'm just going to stitch Mirabilias for the rest of my life. All the Mirabilias. So that might happen. Not the stopping doing the 55 new starts, I'm going to do that, but once that's done, all the Mirabilias. That's my lifetime project. And then when I finish with Mirabilias, I'm going to go on to Nora Corbett's. Plus, I have a plan to do all the Joan Elliott's and all the Teresa Wensley's. There's just not enough time. Even if I didn't work for the rest of my life and I had all the money in the world, There's just not enough time. It's sad. I have an addiction, people. I'm probably not the only one. Yeah, just stitch all the things, all of them, everything. So when that was done, I pulled out my next whip that weekend, and it was again Beth Russell's book, Victorian Needlepoints, and this is the Magpies. Started in 2017. That's what it looks like. Changed the colours. I had issues with it, as if you've seen my second video, you will understand what issues I had. And it was a finish. And it nearly killed me, because I had that much left of the pattern that I needed to do. And then I had all the white to fill in. White on white. 16 count Ada. I'll tell you what the stitch count is on this one. The stitch count, 202 by 202. And there we go. So yeah, white on white stitching. So the plan is to frame it in the same kind of frame, so the matching with the trellis piece that I finished, and have them side by side in the kitchen. I love birds. I'm a bird watcher. I absolutely love birds and nature, so you'll see a theme that quite a lot of my cross stitches will have either birds in, or they will have flowers in, or the landscapes. I love that kind of stuff, and then shabby chic kind of stuff as well that I like to do. I'm obsessed with Paris, birds, hot air balloons, Alice in Wonderland. That's the kind of stuff that I like. So yeah, so my second finish. Then Monday the 17th, I pulled out my new start, which was a book new start, and I was doing the England Union Jack. I'm doing this on 14 count Ada. I worked on it for 5 days. Now, this was the start of where things started to go downhill rapidly for me. Before I show this, I'm going to talk a little bit about my day-to-day life and what I go through as a person. I've ummed and ahed about whether I should talk about this. Sorry, there is a chance that I'm going to end up breaking down through this bit, but I thought it's important because you'd understand a lot more about me, and it explains my stitching, and it also explains why I'm doing these 55 new starts. I mentioned it in my first video about that I had a bad year last year. I'm just gonna say now that there's a good chance that I might have to pause this video and go and sort myself out if I start to cry. So if there's a weird pause and then I'm back, that's the reason why. So so yeah, last year in April, I got a phone call from my mum to tell me that my dad was in hospital. He was all right. He'd fell at home, but he was in hospital. And she kept me updated every other day. He's doing well. He's going to be out soon. He's doing well. He's going to be out soon. And that went on for about 2 weeks. And then one Thursday night, I got a phone call from my sister at 9:30 at night saying that my mum hadn't been completely honest with me and that they needed to come and pick me up and bring me to the hospital because my dad was seriously ill. So they picked me up and they took me to where my mum lives. She lives about an hour's drive away from where I was born. So I moved quite a while ago. I moved to the town that I'm living in now, which is a small market town on the outskirts of the moors, and I moved here for work. So they picked me up and took me to my mum's. What had happened was my dad spent his whole life working. He was a joiner, carpenter, and on that day he'd got up and he'd been in the back garden building a table. He'd finished, he'd gone into the house, gone upstairs, and he'd fell and hit his side against a cabinet. And to cut a long story short, his liver basically gave up and there was nothing they could do for him. So it was completely unexpected. It was heartbreaking, obviously. Losses. I got picked up at 9:30 on the Thursday night, and the next day by 1 o'clock we were all in a room with the doctor telling us that he only had 5 days to live. So yeah, it was nice to spend 5 days with him, but he wasn't coherent. He didn't know what he was saying. It was hard. It was really hard. And it destroyed me. Completely destroyed me. He was everything to me, my dad. So that kick-started off the year from hell for me. So 3 weeks later, we had the funeral. And then I came home. I had 2 weeks off work. We spent a week with my mum. And then I had a week at home to grieve and try and come to terms with the fact that he was no longer here. I then went back to work for a week, just getting back into the swings of things. And then I fell in work. I tripped over something and I fell in work. And what I did was I put my hands down to stop myself from hitting my face on the floor. And as soon as I did that, I knew I'd really hurt myself. So I had to go to hospital. And I had hurt myself. I'd broken my wrist. and I'd broken both my elbows. So I ended up with 2 broken arms. 2 broken arms. 3 weeks, well, 2.5 weeks after the funeral of my dad. The only thing I can say is it's bad enough with 1 broken arm. I've broke my arm before, but with 2, the amount of stuff you do with your hands is unbelievable. I couldn't do a thing. I couldn't open a door. I couldn't scratch my face. I couldn't eat. I couldn't use my arms. I couldn't use them. So because I couldn't do anything, I had to go and live back at my mum's. So I went back to my mum's. I was told not to go out in case I fell, because if I fell, then I would fall, and obviously I wouldn't be able to brace myself. I wouldn't be able to stop myself because they weren't cast. They were just, I just had straps and wrist guards. So I had to just basically stay in the house. So I went to my mum's. I spent 3 months inside. And because I spent 3 months inside, my anxiety kicked in. Now, a lot of people talk about anxiety. And I'm not saying that what they talk about is any different from what I'm talking about. But my anxiety is severe, extremely severe. I've suffered with depression and anxiety for the last 16 years of my life. From the age of 20, I have suffered with anxiety. Because I spent 3 months locked, basically up in the house, I ended up having my 3rd nervous breakdown. And ended up in hospital myself because it was so bad. It's been so bad this time that I couldn't leave my mum's. I spent 8 months living at my mum's because I couldn't be alone, because I was so terrified of being alone that I couldn't come home. I came home. I'm not much better. I can't actually leave the house. As soon as I set foot outside the house, I start to panic. So I'm basically now living in my flat